obviously the gap between people using AI for their own productivity and people not using AI is only widening every day. And the same is going to happen with small businesses, and not only small businesses, I think with businesses of any size. So yeah, I mean, of course, it's better to start early. And yeah, of course, there is a learning curve. They should not trust LinkedIn posts that say that it's super easy. I mean, like to create a chief of staff in 1 hour. No, it's not going to happen. But yeah, but obviously, I mean, yeah, I mean, the gap, the competitive gap is going to be only wider. I mean, every day, and yeah, so definitely it's time to catch up.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing Podcasts. Here's Kevin.
Hi, I'm Kevin Lee with the E-Marketing Association. I also run Did It. I run a nonprofit Giving Forward, Truth Nutrition, and a bunch of stuff under my incubator. And a lot of that stuff really bridges between marketing and sales. And the lines are pretty blurry, particularly when you talk about SaaS software and some other industry categories. Is exactly where marketing stops and sales begins, or vice versa. So super excited to be chatting with Vadim Rogovskiy, who touches on a lot of these intersection points as well. He's building Eve. He also had acquired Literature under his holding company. So let's start with how the outreach side of sales is changing, and how you're dealing with that with Eve, and how Literature is handling that.
Hey Kevin, yeah, thanks for having me here. So yeah, just like I think so at first I got into entrepreneurship through acquisition like a bit more than 2 years ago with a thesis to go and acquire kind of legacy software companies on fragmented markets such as event tech. So that's how I got into event tech after we acquired Literature, like 20-year-old event technology company that helps other businesses to run trade shows, conferences, capture leads, and all like almost a full cycle of event technologies. And yeah, and when we're talking to all these hundreds of small business owners still involved in sales, doing like founder-led sales, how it's called now. I realized that kind of they don't even have problem with outreach. They don't really depend on the outreach, because if they've been around for 20 years, they mostly grow through inbound, through referrals. But the problem is that they do not convert them properly, meaning that their main problem is not lack of some cold leads they acquire through mass outreach, but their problem is mostly what is already sitting in their emails, in their spreadsheets, in their notes, but just sits completely forgotten or dormant, just because they cannot keep it in their head, and less than 50% of leads ever get to the CRM. When we talk about small businesses, let's say less than $10 million in revenue. So that's what we decided to solve with Eve. And then, long story short, based on that knowledge that we acquired about all these small businesses and how they convert their leads, etc., we very recently started to work on a new version that also helps them to find new prospects by understanding very well which types of leads they had the biggest success with.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, certainly not all leads are created equal, and that's pretty much across every industry category, B2B or B2C, right? The average order value is different. In the case of long-term annuity businesses, the lifetime value is different. So, you mentioned small business. Obviously, that covers a lot of different categories, from home services to real estate, et cetera. Have you found that there are sort of common problems that are other than the not following up on leads and not having them in the CRM, which you already mentioned, but do you notice that there's specific industry categories where what you're building you think will really resonate with them more than other categories?
Yes, definitely. Because yeah, I mean, SMB is very, very, very broad term. So I mean, obviously our wedge, like our kind of ideal customer profile, where we see kind of the pain related to uh, actually finding and converting leads is I mean it's all about service businesses like or project. I mean the majority of service businesses are project based, and I'm talking about first of all even white collar businesses, meaning any types of agencies from legal firms to consulting firms, web design firms, etc., etc. They all, and also it's related to the business that literature is in, meaning event technologies, event management, because it's also project based. You run an event for an organizer, then you need to go back and sell to him, to the same organizer again, to run the next event. Meaning these businesses are in constant sales motion, meaning that they almost don't have recurring revenue or don't have recurring revenue at all. So what they need to do after they complete the sale and the project, they need to be on the lookout for new signals so they can reach out to this lead at the very right point of time. So that's why we realized that this is our beachhead market.
And within the events category, obviously there are B2B events in almost every industry. I mean, I tend to do probably 20 events a year, and either participating or attending or covering as the e-marketing association. And there's a very different attendee profile as well as exhibitor profile for Expo West, for example, which is a gigantic food and beverage show versus the Possible Conference, which I'm an investor in, which happens down in Miami every year. There's a little bit of an overlap, but it's a very different profile. And in some cases, there are annuity type customers. And in other cases, as you mentioned, there's a constant need to nurture. So, as part of what you're building, do you feel like you're creating a more informed drip type system that looks for signals and then triggers off of those signals? Is that the big difference?
Yeah, it's kind of it's a mix of things. First of all, like we have pretty unique system that looks at first of all combines all your unstructured data sitting across multiple tools that usually are not talking to each other. And then we combine this with external signals on top of it, meaning LinkedIn updates, job postings, funding rounds, press releases about product launches, etc., etc. And then uh, the mix of all of these two things allows us to uh, to provide very precise recommendations about like when to reach out to the lead or prospect and what message to use, what context to use.
So a lot of folks are using Claude Code and Claude Cowork and Clawbot to essentially give it their own try to essentially build a lot of the automation that it sounds like you're building. But I think your system is a little bit more well thought out, particularly as it relates to external signals that may come in, via third parties. So for those folks who are crazy enough to think, oh, I can build what Vadim's team is building, what warnings would you give them that they shouldn't try to build this on their own?
Well, I think it's, I mean, of course, it's possible to build it. However, it's not, I mean, of course, like we spent more than a year iterating with a dedicated team, very strong CTO. I just, it's all about experimentation here because you can quickly get to 80%. I mean, you can use, for example, I know people just who used Claude Cowork to basically create like a reactive version of Eve. Um, and I pretty much did the same for my wife's catering business. When you kind of every morning you type a query and the agent goes and checks your email, checks your LinkedIn, and then gives you a report who to follow up with, etc., etc. But there are edge cases every day, so you need to constantly update the instructions. You need to constantly make sure the agent learns every day and becomes better. And also, it's still reactive, so it's not gonna remind you about things, and it's not gonna run when your machine is off. Lots of, I mean, these are the most obvious issues, but there are so many more of these. So yeah, I mean, our probably our strengths is that we piloted it with like 50 plus different businesses from different industries, and we collected their data, and now we kind of understand the different, let's say, even like conversion rates across multiple industries. We understand their sales processes, etc. And we started to use this data to help to help every new customer to improve to basically improve their messaging in their outreach, to improve their sales process. So that's why we started to call Eve like a revenue brain of a small business. That's like a new narrative.
Right, right. Yeah, of course, the thing I would warn them about, having fallen into the trap myself of wanting to build things just because one can does not mean one should.
Totally.
Um,
Yeah.
but the both your platform and of course the LLMs themselves are all learning as they go.
Mhm.
And the fact that your team, human team, and your AI are both learning collectively across many customers means they will learn more quickly than
Yep.
any
Yep.
specific individual platform that somebody builds will learn. So, without sharing anything that's under wraps, what are some plans for future iterations, perhaps where you're integrating things that you've purchased into it, or adding additional RevOps into the system?
Yeah. So you're talking about Eve, like what else
Yes.
do we want to bring? Yeah, yeah. We are working on making on basically. I think actually every software company needs to go through this a transition to stop being perceived as a software and being perceived more like a AI employee. And I think this is I mean, this is what we're also going through with Eve, because if you're selling software, you have a lot of pricing pressure, and and also it's a kind of different way of perception when people expect some reactive things. Some, I mean, they expect you to just respond to questions, uh, giving them some very strict output, etc., etc. But if you talk about more like ambient AI employee helping you in the background, which is more like our vision for Eve, sitting in your tools in the background, analyzing all the information, and then chiming in when it's needed, not when you think that you need it, because otherwise it creates more work instead of reducing your workload. And yes, that's what we're trying to go through. We are working on different connectors to different, like to Slack, for example. So if it's going to be sitting on Slack as a regular AI employee, etc., and lots of other things that we are experimenting with right now. So yeah, it's also about like another existential question to the majority of software companies is what's your primary UI? What's your primary user interface? And because now it doesn't make sense to invest a lot into web UI in making it more and more complex, adding more charts, widgets, etc. Because again, it's adding more work instead of reducing it. And although HubSpot, Salesforce, etc., they still do it, but that's the road to nowhere. And the good question is like, okay, what's the main surface now? Like what's, and I think there are going to be different answers. For example, like I use it to like Granola for transcripts, for call transcripts, but they use Mac app, and I don't even use their web UI because they just sit on my computer. Or there are other tools that serve as just kind of like an ambient solution, and I think that's the future. But it's not easy to get away from web UI, because that's how teams are used to build things, and that's what we are also like going through, trying to pick the best surface for Eve.
So, if you're open to sharing, I'd love to hear how your wife's catering business has changed as a result of automation of its revenue ops. Obviously, catering is one of those cases where there's a window of time where a particular individual or company decides they need something catered. And the window
Yeah.
is open it's a short window of time, right? The person is in market and then they're out of market again. right? And so I'd love to hear how you and your wife have sort of collaborated to decide, oh, well, we need to make sure that every time somebody thinks that where we've delighted them in the past, we want to make sure that every time they think of catering, that we're ready and there's messages that are relevant to them, either that they're receiving in that time window or somehow they're thinking of her first.
Oh yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, I mean it's pretty early. However, I mean, so yeah, I mean, she launched it like officially in January this year. Before it was more like in the test mode here in the Bay Area, and she hired me to like for food, and obviously food is great because she runs catering business, so I'm not complaining. So I'm implementing AI, and obviously. Yeah, it definitely. Now I can. So what I've done is basically I saw that the majority, like almost, there are almost no catering businesses that use LinkedIn for to promote themselves. They still are stuck in Google Ads, which was kind of surprising. But I think that's the majority of small businesses. That's how they operate. Still stuck in traditional channels. It's like Google Ads and SEO, and that's it. So we started to use LinkedIn personalized outreach to. First of all, we scraped people from sites like Luma and Eventbrite, the people who organize meetups, some corporate events, etc., etc. Then we kind of then we also like created lookalike audiences, and just just scrape them through LinkedIn, and yeah, it's all everything through Cloud Cowork. I didn't even use any tools like I mean like Lemlist or something like that. And then yeah, I created some sequences, and yeah, and I mean, as for conversions, I just think like that like if you look at 100 contacts, just LinkedIn profiles, we contact through Cloud Cowork, at least one wants to see the proposal, which is pretty good, I think. And I'm not talking about 100 people who responded or accepted. No, I'm just talking like 100 people. So if you have 1,000 contacts, you have at least 10 people that want to look at proposal right now, and you have another 20 want to look at proposal, but they don't have the urgent need. But then you start nurturing them. And recently, I also connect. So I created LinkedIn nurturing skill on Cloud, and then also created email nurturing skill. So on email, we basically chase people who haven't accepted on LinkedIn. So it's early for now, but definitely there are some first customers. So I started running this pretty actively. I would say like a month ago, and then now there were a few customers that already came through LinkedIn. Yeah, it's going well. But as I said, every day I have to observe how agent performs. I have to make sure the agent learns from itself and updates the skill almost every day. It's never ending story, but it's like coaching a junior GTM employee who gets better every day.
For sure. It sounds like the value of Eve would be exponentially larger if a business has a significant sized database already of former customers, or in the case of even annuity business, lapsed customers, folks who used to be
Yeah,
clients to a
totally.
subscription or clients to some kind of ongoing revenue. And the ability to take somebody who is already familiar with the company, already familiar with the brand, and sort of reactivate them. So, have you had a chance to deploy Eve within those contexts where there's a pretty rich CRM database, and then, of course, all the non-entered CRM data as well that you were able to extract out of email conversations and such?
Yeah, as you said, yeah, we can deliver immediate big value when we already integrate with a business that has been around for some time. In the and Yes, and then yeah, I mean, but then obviously we have treasure trove of data to learn from. But even if not, for example, now we are running a pilot with a few businesses that, yeah, with a few serial acquirers who acquired a few businesses. There is not much data there, but at least they have extensive sales and marketing collateral and information on the internet, etc., etc., which is also enough for us to start delivering a clear value. Uh, but it's also the reason why I'm not using Eve in my wife's business, just because, I mean, it's like she doesn't she just launched it officially, so and she doesn't have proper collateral yet. I'm helping her build it, so that's why kind of she it's not a perfect target. So for us, for Eve, this still needs to be like a bit bigger. Like for small business, I mean probably like 10 to 20 people operation at least with a sales team, like with founder managing sales, but with a small sales team, maybe with at least few million in revenue, all the way up to 20.
So do you feel like above a certain revenue level that there are alternatives that they've already put in place, whether whatever it is, being on HubSpot or Salesforce or some more traditional CRM, or do you feel like Eve just has to grow into that mid-market from a functionality perspective?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, we kind of we still we are kind of asking this question ourselves like pretty often. The thing is now we see the wedge in like being on top of the tools they use and not forcing them to migrate to another CRM because I don't
Right.
honestly I don't think the world needs another CRM. But then later, yeah, later we can migrate because yeah, so that's why we're not saying, hey, you're gonna grow up and you won't need Eve. No, actually, because we sit on top of tools and we see some interest coming from larger organizations. But that's how Eve started with with small businesses. So we still kind of more focused there, but we also started to talk to private equity and serial acquirers because there is an opportunity to implement Eve into entire portfolios. And that's why I hosted this event in New York recently. And yeah, this is like our current kind of GTM channel.
Yeah, so obviously, being an e-marketing association podcast, I'm sure everybody would love to get into your head of how you're marketing Eve, and you touched on one, which is events into a one-to-many deployment, right? Whereas if
Yep.
there's PE firms or potentially VC firms that have many portcos, then that one relationship spawns others. And events, I'd love to. This is you're now touching events from two different venues. One is you have an events tech company, and the other is you're using events yourself. So
Mhm.
I think it'd be useful to for people to understand how you've decided that events and the one-to-many strategy is the one that you're using, what your thought process was around that, and what you're doing in addition to the one-to-many strategy for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we still are with Eve, we're still kind of in a discovery experimentation mode, meaning we're testing different ideas before we even build them. So we run end-to-end experiments, meaning we sometimes could create a landing page with a narrative, with a wait list, etc. Then we push it to a selected group of people through LinkedIn, doing some hyper-personalized outreach, and then we see the conversion into waitlist submissions, right? For example, just one of the motions. But another thing is in-person events. Yeah, as I mean, yeah, as I wrote on LinkedIn recently, I think that in-person events is one of the most like underrated uh, promotional channels, right? Nowadays. So and yeah, I mean, in our experience, we are able to acquire leads almost for free if we do it properly. But also, it's not even about that. It's about the quality of engagement with these leads because you can talk to them face to face, and as you know, like the quality of interaction is just way higher. So yeah, but of course, it's not for everyone because it's not. It's hard to run events as a go-to-market channel on a massive scale. It's just it becomes like a separate business. So for us, it's more like yeah, it's still pretty boutique because we're running experiments. But no, but we have ideas how to scale it as soon as we are ready. What else works well? Definitely webinars that you can run in partnerships with other companies that are targeting the same audience but not directly competitive. And what else really? I mean, I think these three things, LinkedIn, hyper-personalized LinkedIn outreach, webinars, and in-person events, that's what worked for Eve pretty well recently.
So I know LinkedIn has been somewhat more challenging in the recently, particularly for people who are not personalizing and who are doing any form of scale. I think they routinely think I'm a robot I mean, other people in my life may also think I'm a robot, but the reality is like if you spend any amount of time, interacting with LinkedIn on a consistent basis over a few hours, often they'll sort of flag you. So I'm
Hmm.
curious as to, without sharing anything proprietary, do you feel like there's a under the radar level of automation into LinkedIn that works particularly well, just being very respectful of their platform?
Uh, yeah, I think, yeah, according to my experience, and I run many campaigns across multiple companies, I think that if you do it from active accounts that that belong to your team members who actually also sometimes like and post different things and not just and not just kind of keep their accounts live, but not do anything there. So you literally use LinkedIn sometimes, and then you run, and then you do up to 30 connection requests per day. Then you pretty much are in a safe zone, and you do and then you end up having 150 to 200 requests per week. Then LinkedIn can just might stop you and say, hey, you reached your weekly limit, and that limit usually refreshes the next day, and that's it. But it's important. But it's, yeah. I mean, you can scale it by adding more team members to your a campaign, and then you basically can just multiply it by. So if you added 5 people, you multiply it by 30. Now we can shoot 150 invites per day. But yeah, if you do more than that, or if you blast emails or direct messages in some spikes, like in some like more than 100 per day, suddenly, like LinkedIn doesn't like when you like they like to see trajectory. They don't like to see spikes. I mean, as every platform, yeah.
Great. Anything else that you think marketers and sales teams should be thinking about this year as they add virtual employees and AI to the mix?
Yeah, I just think that AI, like if you use AI for sales and marketing, I mean, obviously, I mean, if you deploy agents, obviously, let's not forget that it's like a very junior employee who just started and just got the access to your tools, to your files, but you need to observe, you need to create safe place to fail, meaning, yeah, you need to give them some freedom, but you need to be able to quickly to have early warning system, and so you need to like to chime in and fix. But yeah, but over time they can become really indispensable. Yeah, and also I also wanted to say that there's gonna be, I think, like AI is only coming to event technologies, for example, because still, as you know, like there are, I mean, event tech is uh, pretty old and traditional and rudimental industry. There are so many players that, I mean, so many companies that just, I mean, like, I mean, I'm talking about event technology vendors that didn't really implement any AI solutions. With Leadership, we actually are working on something that we're starting to pilot it, that basically not just like after the event finishes, I mean, usually what happens that a lead capture company just provides list of leads and that's it. But we want to go much further. We want to provide all this with the help of Eve. We want to provide all this context. We want to provide external signals on top of it, and then our AI employee can go and help sales team of a customer to actually go and follow up with these leads and get them on a demo. So it's more like an integrated post-event follow-up and sales solution, and we just started to pilot it. So I think that this is one of the most obvious ways to bring AI into the event tech umbrella. Yeah.
From the way you and other folks are describing sort of that future, it sounds like that differentiation between the early adopters of using the AI employees to do some of that initial follow-up and to sort of interact with those drip campaigns gives them a really amazing advantage in comparison to their competitors. So, for folks who are watching or listening, who are saying, "Oh, I don't need to do that. I've got a great team. They're been doing it the same way for 15 years. It works great," and are not really thinking about layering in RevOps optimization or changing the way things are done. Would you warn them that they shouldn't wait until it's too late?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, like, yeah, I think obviously the gap between people using AI for their own productivity and people not using AI is only widening every day, and the same is going to happen with small businesses, and not only small businesses. I think with businesses of any size. So yeah, I mean, of course, it's better to start early, and yeah, of course, there is a learning curve. They should not trust LinkedIn posts that say that it's super easy. I mean, like to create a chief of staff in 1 hour. No, it's not going to happen. But yeah, but obviously, I mean, yeah, I mean, the gap, the competitive gap is going to be only wider. I mean, every day, and yeah, so definitely it's time to catch up.
Great. Well, thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and your story thus far across those two platforms. And I'll be looking forward to continuing to see their evolution.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me here. Great question.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in the Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.